It's March 2022. Winter is turning into spring and life returns to the boatyard. With the thaw, the sailors come out of their burrows and the air soon fills with the sound of sanding, power tools and jovial conversation. Marella, our 1977 Albin ballad, has been sitting on the hard for the past 4 months, waiting for sun and warmth to return to the Swedish west coast. Now at last it's time for another season aboard one small ship. It's hard to believe it's been 2 years since I picked up my phone and started filming my work on Marella. I've had time to get quite a few projects done. Back in 2020 I installed a diesel heater and replaced and repaired most of the cockpit teak. And then last year we built a brand new head, and before that I also removed and replaced most of the electrical system. But there are a lot of minor things that I just didn't quite manage to get done or had to prioritize away due to lack of time. So this spring, my first priority is going to be detail work to try to finish some uncompleted projects and do some cleaning up. There are absolutely some more interesting things happening down the line, but first I want to take some time to strike a few of those pesky not quite done yet issues off of the list, starting with this. The spray hood is 14 years old now, and although the canvas is still in remarkably good condition, the thread is disintegrating due to UV damage from the sun and the elements. I actually handed the spray hood into a canvas shop last year, but due to the corona outbreak they weren't able to finish it in time, and we had to sail most of the season with a dodgy repair that we sort of made ourselves. So today I'm handing the spray hood in to a different shop, and hopefully they'll be able to sort us out before Marella's due back in the water. Now that I've handed in the spray hood, the next item on my list is to remove the old solar panel on the cabin top. I think it's going on 20 years old now, and it's been really bad for a couple of years. But last summer it just completely stopped working, and I tried to repair it by cleaning the contacts on the panel itself and replacing the cable, but it was really no use. And getting a new panel anyway, they're so much more efficient today because of what technology has happened during those 20 years. So I'm going to remove it and replace it with a new one. But in order to get it out of there, I need to remove the housing for the hatch cover. And in order to get the housing off, I need to remove the track for the spray hood. And while I have everything taken apart anyway, I figure I'll do some minor repairs and clean up in there. I'm going to start by removing the spray hood tubes because they're only going to be in the way while I do this anyways. God, that's quite a colour difference. Well, now I get to remove this. I think this is an old antenna mount or something that's been here since we bought Marella back in the day, and I've never used it, and it's always annoyed me. I don't know why I never removed it. I guess it's one of those places on the boat that I just always figured I would get to one day, and you know, well, the day is here. There we are. Some previous owner used bathroom silicone for sealing and waterproofing a lot of the stuff he installed, and so I'm still finding bits of this. Stuff like this that is completely useless. Yuck. Now, you might think that this is warm weather, but it's actually biting cold, and today is the last day of March, so it seems like spring has had a bit of a hiccup. Yesterday I swung by the chandlery and picked up a new solar panel to replace the one on the cabin top. Turns out the old one was a mere 25 watts, and so technology really has made some strides in these 20 years. The new one is rated at 55 watts, and it's made by Swedish company Sunbeam System. They offer several lines of solar panel. This is the Tough version. There's also a Tough Plus, but I don't expect this to be an area that we're going to be walking on a lot, if at all really. So I think this is going to be plenty durable enough for the application. There are a lot of holes and blemishes in this area that I would really love to cover up, but it's really too cold to break out the epoxy right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test fit the panel, and once it gets a little bit warmer further down the line, we're going to take it back off and beautify this whole area. Well, the sun is back out. I'm happy I've been inside the boat for an hour or two, because a while ago it started snowing. God, it's really cold. Anyway, I've routed the new solar panel cable the same way that the old one was routed, and yeah, gonna get on top and uncover the panel, and then we're gonna put a multimeter to this and see what kind of voltage we get. The sun is getting pretty low in the sky, but I should still be able to get a good reading. Well, I've got my multimeter set up here, and that is a voltage of 22.12 volts, open circuit, so sounds just about right, so that gives me good confidence. Then I just need to go up and cover it up again, because now I'm going to hook it up to the regulator, and I don't want to have any sort of voltage or especially any sort of current on it. There. I've connected the panel to the bus bar, which in turn connects to the charger in the forepeak. So now I just have to uncover it, and we'll see how that turns out. Currently my battery monitor says I'm discharging at 2.2 amps, so let's see how that changes when I uncover the panel. Right when I went up to uncover the panel, the sun decided to just disappear entirely, and now it's clouded over, and the sun is fairly low on the horizon, so we're probably not going to get a good reading today. But I'll come down here again tomorrow, and hopefully the sun will be out, and we'll see what kind of a reading we get. Also, I'll try to do that with nothing running, like no heater on, and maybe the master switch off and everything, so I can kind of eliminate some variables, see what I get from the new panel only, without the old panel connected, and stuff like that. But for now, I'm going to head home, and oh! Tomorrow I won't be able to do it, because tomorrow there's actually something else happening which I've been looking forward to for a long time, and yeah, so let's just cut to that right now. Even though this spring is going to be a lot about fixing small issues and finishing old projects, there is still room for some new shiny things and improvements too. It's time to do something that's sorely needed, and it's going to be a huge step towards getting Marella fit for longer journeys. We're replacing all of the standing rigging. The old standing rigging still does look okay, but it is the original 45-year-old wirework, including turnbuckles and fittings. Here in Sweden, it's relatively uncommon to see new standing rigging on older boats, but in other parts of the world, including the UK, it's actually required for yacht owners to replace their stays and shrouds every 10 years in order to get insurance. Of course, this does come at some cost, and it isn't something that we would have chosen to do if it wasn't for the amazing people at Viking Yachting here in Gothenburg. A shroud is, in essence, just a length of wire with fittings on each end that tie the mast to the deck. There are lots of different types of fittings. Many yachts have so-called T-ball fittings, which hook into the mast. Marella has regular eye fittings, which connect to a tang at the mast and then through the turnbuckle to the chain plate at the deck end. Marella's original turnbuckles are out of stainless steel. These days, modern turnbuckles are made out of two different materials. The bolt is still stainless, but the body is made out of softer bronze alloy. This makes them much more unlikely to seize and much more easier to adjust. In order to make a new shroud, I first measure out the length of the old one, including the turnbuckle, and I make sure that one of the bolts on the turnbuckle is screwed in all the way and one is screwed out all the way, essentially making for a halfway adjustment. Then we press the top fitting onto the wire, and we're not cutting it to length yet. Once the top fitting is on, I line up the new wire with the old shroud and figure out where to make my cut. Since the new turnbuckles are a different size than the old ones, I have to account for that when measuring. The easiest way to do that is to make sure that the new turnbuckle is also set halfway, making sure that it has the same adjustment span as the old one, then marking on the wire where it bottoms out inside the fitting. So now I can just make my cut at the mark and then press the bottom fitting on. And once that's done, I line up my old and new shroud and make sure that the lengths match. And then I just write down how much wire I've used, and now I just need to do this 5 more times.
I had the good fortune of getting to work and practice with these tools a while back, so the owners trust me to handle them safely. Of course, this is not something that they allow just anyone to do. We're still paying for materials, and apart from letting me use the space and tools for a day, they haven't sponsored the channel financially, nor would I ever ask them to. Viking Yachting is one of those rare independent shops that still run on a love of the craft, real expertise and respect and kindness towards their customers. It's more than just a place to buy boat stuff. I can say with confidence that when I was at my lowest a few years ago, Joel and Maggie's compassion and their genuine desire to help got me through some rough times, and I can never thank them enough. So, if you should happen to find yourself around the general area of Gothenburg, Sweden, and you need help sorting out anything on your boat, these are the people to talk to. There's a link to their website in the description.
Well, I've really enjoyed this. It's been such an opportunity and so great to be able to do something for Marella that we would have never been able to do otherwise. So from the bottom of our hearts, I want to extend a huge thank you to Joel and Maggie of Viking Yachting here in Gothenburg for making this possible. Now all of this is going to go into storage for a month or so until we're ready to step the mast. Well, it's been a couple of days, and the weather, although still very cold, is at least a lot more sunnier today. So I've got the heater going, and as soon as temperatures reach bearable in here, I'm going to shut it off and we'll do some testing of the solar panels. A thought has been growing in my head over the last few days. See, the aft-mounted solar panel has the date 2010 stamped on it. And 12 years is an absolute eternity in solar tech advances. So I'm thinking now that I've replaced the old broken one, I might want to replace this one too. I've really wanted to build a solar arch and put something like 200 watts of solar on it. But there's really no time for that right now, and having someone make me one would be way too pricey. So I think sticking a more efficient panel on the existing mount is a reasonable trade-off for now. And these rigid type panels are really dirt cheap these days. So even if we decide to build an arch later and replace it, it's not a huge loss. So I'm not just evaluating the new panel, I'm also going to be looking at the other one and seeing if that is still up to the task. All right, I've got everything disconnected. I've got the master switch off, got the 24-hour systems fuse box off, and I've only hooked up the new solar panel on the cabin top now. So as you can see now, the sun comes out and it's up to 1.9, 2.0 amps of charge immediately. Even with the sun getting low on the horizon and the new panel being flat on the cabin top roof. So I'm going to disconnect the new panel and hook up the old one, and we're going to compare it and see if we can draw any conclusions from that. Well, I've hooked up the aft panel now and aligned it towards the sun. So this is at an optimal angle, and it's got a maximum power output of 2.7 amps. It's a 50-watt panel. And I'm seeing charge of 2.8 to 3.0 amps. I think some of that is the charger balancing the starter battery and the house batteries. So that kind of puts to rest my fears that this panel was broken or not working in any sort of way. So now I'm going to hook the other panel up as well, and we're going to see what kind of numbers we get with both panels connected. So having reconnected both of the panels, I'm now seeing charge of 4.6 amps up towards of 5 amps when the sun is out, which is consistent with the 2 amps that I saw from the cabin top panel and the 3 amps that I recorded on the rear, the aft panel. I've got to say I'm really surprised by how well this 10-year-old panel is performing. Actually, I was expecting it to do worse. So the only real issue is if I can find a more efficient panel today, but I do not need to replace it because it's broken or performing worse or anything like that. But that is great information to have, and it's something that I'm going to carry with me when I shop around for new panels to see if there's something that I can find that is reasonably more efficient than what's already there. Because if it's like a difference of 10 to 15%, it's not going to matter too much. But if I can find something that's 30, 40% more efficient, it will be interesting. But we will get back to that, and for now I'm going to leave it and move on to other things.
Well, the 2022 season is off to a flying start with all new standing rigging and that great new solar panel. We're just getting started though, so stay tuned for the next one. If you enjoyed this episode, you can help us out by leaving a like. It really does make a big difference. And press subscribe and click the notification bell to follow us on our journey. You can also follow us on social media. Check out the links below for that. And thank you so much for watching. Fair winds.